All right, great. I am live with Bus Wires. Is that?
Perfect.
Thank you. Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. And thanks for joining me. And so today we're, talking about the power of simplicity. And some of that's going to be about truth, authenticity, just saying the things, and sort of what it takes to just be yourself, which I've always found an entertaining aspect. And Bus, would you just you and I didn't plan this. A couple things I want to talk about, and we know what we wanted to discuss. But can you just tell us a little bit about your path, your general path? Because you put
Yes,
out some pretty powerful content, and I'd love to. Cool, please.
thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm Bas. I'm 48, and I live in the Netherlands, in Europe, and I am currently married for a little bit over half a year with the love of my life, Priska. And we met in 2015. It's a very mind-blowing story, but maybe we will talk later about that. What
Yeah.
I do in life is I am a relationship and intimacy coach together with my wife. We do that together. We have a business together, and I have two kids, one of 15 and one of 13. And like, I have done so incredibly many things in my life. I have done before I became a relationship and intimacy coach. I was a special needs teacher for 20 years. So I worked in
Wow.
Amsterdam in one of the hoods. It was quite tough working there. Um, I have been like in 2010, for example, just shortly, I was diagnosed with cancer, quite severe stage 4 cancer, and
Oh wow.
I really, because my I had so much help, but I really felt from the start that this was not my time to go, so I really fought for it, and then within a couple of
Mhm.
months it was totally gone. So I
Mhm.
actually overcame quite some
Wow.
things, and I'm just an incredibly happy man to be here in this life, in this world, with all the beautiful people in my life and here on Facebook. So that's it in
Yeah.
short.
Lovely. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you. So let's talk about this. Just truth on authenticity, the power of simplicity. Um, it's funny. I think a lot of people who are watching probably are aware. I'm currently writing a book on relationships, and I actually resisted coaching or guiding people around relationships for a long time.
Mhm.
And sometimes I would just ask them. I would ask my clients because they would want some advice. I'd say, "Well, I can ask you some questions, but I'm not gonna tell you what to do. I mean,
Yeah.
and partly I'm not gonna have people stay in an unfulfilling in any context, job or relationship or and so I would ask them, after we asked them what's important to them in a relationship and how would that show up and whether or not they're getting that. Sometimes they would just disappear, but also sometimes I would just ask them, "Are you really in a relationship or are you just in a habit?" Which wasn't, you know, but to me, that boils it down. A lot of people aren't in a vibrant there, and it's to me, it's very simple. Are you in a relationship which is alive and vibrant, and there's lots of things that have it be there, or are you just in a habit? You're like, well, I don't know. You're afraid to be alone, maybe, or
Yeah.
or you don't think you can say the things you need to say, or have the things you desire, or recently a woman told me that sometimes when you're married to somebody, you just lower your standards to equalize to the man you're with, and I was like, oof, you know.
Yeah.
And so she justifies his lack of facility in the bedroom, or
Mm.
his cognitive capacities not being there, or his lack of presence. She's just like, well, and it's like, or some guys are like, well, I guess this is just my life now. Um,
Yeah.
and so what are your, like, the title of this is your idea, simplicity, the power of simplicity. Would you speak to it, sir?
Of course. Of course. Thank you for asking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Simplicity is like I come from a background where lots of things were totally not simple. Everything was complex. Everything was incredibly multi-layered. My parents, for example, divorced when I was 8. I lived with my mom, and she came out of the closet when I was 10. I guess that she actually
Wow.
was a lesbian.
Wow.
And during my upbringing, she was not always very subtle about saying that men were not okay and that they suppress women. So as a young boy who was in this like male body, I was
Right.
constantly suppressing myself to please her.
Right.
And then when I grew up and when I went out of the house, I also was quite young when I went out of the house and started to living on myself. Like I experimented with lots of things. I had like lots of one night stands. I had threesomes. I really wanted to break free from this limited idea of what a man should be.
Right.
So I actually went to the other extreme. And at one point, when I was like in 2009, I already was married for a long time and I had my 2 kids. I all of a sudden realized, but why do I make myself so complicated? Because life is actually not complicated. It's what I do in my mind, what I do like in my body, and the work that I don't do with the energy that I have, everything that I suppress. And then I read this book by Dan Millman, the Way of the
Yeah.
Spiritual Warrior.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was for me like my eyes and my heart like burst open, and I googled him and I saw the word shamanism, and then I looked at the next no the most close by possibility for me in Holland to do shaman education, and I went for that, and that was really for me like, wow, life is
Yeah.
so fucking simple. You just have to be with yourself, you just have to be with the elements, you have to speak, you have to learn to speak your truth, because that was
Yeah.
really something that scared the shit out of me, to really tell my truth and give my opinions.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and that's when I started doing it, and it like it's not that with one snip of the fingers I was there. It was really like a roller coaster,
Yeah.
and I really learned that it's about like repeating, and then at one point you find out all the things that you are scared of actually are not so scary. So that's how I
Yeah.
slowly shifted into this whole idea about being authentic, leading a simple life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Simplicity is so, and authenticity. I mean, you and I talked about this. I often say I find it ironic how much personal development it takes to just be yourself. There's a lot of things there. People are afraid. Like, well,
Mm,
if I say this thing I need, are they still gonna like? There's a approval or not, or will they still like me? Will they think I'm weird if I tell them a
mm,
thing I like? Maybe it's sexually, maybe it's socially, maybe it's what you want to do instead of your corporate job. And
mm,
so, if you share these things, sometimes people and people, unfortunately, they often need approval from those they're sharing it with. And I find that, for me, I think the critical component of just simply telling the truth sort of requires that you can be okay with the other person thinking you're weird, or expressing disapproval, or
mm.
um, and so you have to be, to a certain degree, capable of self-regulating your own internal emotions, or having secure attachment in terms of attachment theory, or high
Yep.
self-esteem in terms of self-esteem. By the way, I read that book 30 years ago in prison.
Oh wow, wow.
Yeah, the Dan Millman book, that was
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
one
It's
of
it's beautiful. True.
yeah, yeah, cool.
Yeah, but that's
So
beautiful what you say. Yeah, and it's really about for me, like when I have to create an image around it, it's really about breaking open the I hate the word container, but I'm going to use it anyhow. The
Sure,
container
sure.
that holds you like captive, or that puts you in prison almost.
Right, right.
And it's really about finding these little key ingredients within yourself that can help you to unleash it in a more easy for yourself, easy for your nervous system way. And I think it's like beautiful exercises to just go with the flow, to don't give any fucks, and to just see what happens. And mostly when you do that, people actually love you for it. That's the beauty of it.
They do. I think, truth and so first of all, I think that, telling the truth and hearing the truth is the foundation of any healthy relationship. It needs to be the very first agreement. And it could be sharing a preference or asking for something you need or just sharing what's going on for you without skipping over it. I think it's the foundation for any healthy relationship. And I think it's because the truth is so vital. Like telling what's going on for you right now or what you want right now is so it's the thing that is the most juicy, I think, in relationships as well. But also, relationships begin to die in the things we don't say. That's where they and those things keep piling up. And it's so simple. Just tell the truth. And when somebody's sharing something that might be scary for them, hear the truth. Like it's without reacting, and maybe you don't need to do anything about it. And I think a lot of, especially men, sometimes they're like, "Oh, I need to do something." No, maybe they just need to share the thing, and I'll ask them, Do you have a request?" After that, like after they share fully, do you have a request? And they might say
Mm,
no, or they might say yes. But
yeah,
I don't think we necessarily need to do anything with it. We just need to hear it, and same the other way.
that's so true. Yeah, that's incredibly true. And this is really like the relationship savior, because otherwise it will, what you already said, it will just bottle up and it will
Right.
explode. I remember one time when my wife Prisca was coming to, because she's Swiss originally, and she
Mhm.
came to Holland, and I was still in the middle of the wrap up of my divorce, and my ex wife was even still living in the house because she couldn't find her own spot.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and okay, my ex-wife was gone then, and we already talked about, Prisca and I already talked a little bit about, okay, when can I come and move in with you?
Sure.
Because she was living in another place in Holland, in this very little like room under the roof, where it was like freezing in the winter and like a sauna in the summer, and she was living with three other guys. She had to share the bathroom, so it was not always the nicest thing for her. And then when this date arrived, or it came closer, I felt I am not ready yet. I am
Mm.
not ready yet to already let you into my life intimately and so close every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Good.
and we had like this when we went into a relationship, we already said to each other, we are going to tell each other always the truth, even if it we know it will hurt the other one. But
Mm.
this is the one thing that we really are going to commit to. So I had to tell her, and she was tore apart, because she really had this
Sure.
want, and she really wanted to be with me, and she didn't want to sit in that fucking little house under the roof where she was melting away in the summer. And but
Sure.
if I wouldn't have done that, I already know that I would blame her, unconsciously blame her, for the fact that she would take something away from me, because I didn't put my boundaries out there in well, in a very stern and self-loving way.
That's
So
right.
when we talk about these kind of things, what you talk about, this is always the example that I bring in. Sometimes you really have to hurt somebody so badly, but yeah, it's shitty, but it's the only way to do. Sometimes, not always, of course.
Yeah, I also think sometimes there's this so I have it there's a myth that so a lot of people don't tell the truth. They're like, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings, right? And you made the, I think, wise and bold move to tell the truth, as was your agreement. But
Mhm.
also if we delay that, it hurts even more later.
Yes. Yes.
And so it might be really uncomfortable to say it, and, and it could be, I mean, nowadays, I've heard a lot of people just, rather than saying, hey, this isn't a fit, after a date, they just ghost them. And then the person's sitting there wondering, is there something I did? Or is there something? And
Mm,
so, there's a phrase I came across recently. It's clarity is kindness.
wow. Yes.
And if you tell somebody the truth, like, and it could be as simple as, and I think I put this in the copy for this event. It could be as simple as, you make me laugh. I really like that. It's like, all right, cool. You like my, wacky humor. Awesome.
Yep. Yep.
Or it could be, hey, this isn't a fit. Or it could be, I'm not ready to date yet. Or it could be, um, you know, I, I really like you, but I'm scared to blah, 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 blah. Like I messed up
Mm,
my last relationship, like whatever it may be for people. I think it actually builds intimacy to tell the uncomfortable truth. It's which is different than I'm just speaking my truth, which is usually what somebody says when they're being an asshole.
yes.
But like, hey, I'm scared to share this, and I feel like I need to say it because if I don't, then it will lead to like it'll be, even if it's just on your mind that you didn't say it,
Mm,
that can inhibit intimacy in a way.
totally. Yeah.
And it's so
Totally.
simple. Just say the thing. It's simplicity. Just tell the truth. Just
It's simple. It's simple and it's beautiful and it's scary as hell.
yeah,
But I think it's the only way.
yeah. Say more about that. And I want to hear your story with Priska and how you guys met with that meditate.
Ah,
You and I talked about before the call, but because you did actually, let's do that now. You did the scary thing. You call her up and you told her I had this experience, and
yeah.
and
Yeah. Okay. Well,
2015. Take us back there.
2015. We go back to 2015. Like I was still married then, and I was living in Holland with my then wife and my two kids. And Priska is Swiss, and she was living in Switzerland in her own apartment in Bern. And we were in this Facebook group, and at one point, this group started collective meditations all over the world. So people from all over the world at the same moment in time would do this meditation to how do you say that, lift up the energy,
Raise the
raise the
vibration.
energy, yeah, raise the vibration.
Yeah.
And the moment when I went into the meditation, Priska, who was in Switzerland, was sitting on my Dutch couch, and I could literally see her, I could smell her, I could touch her, I could hear her. And she was really sitting next to me and really looking me straight in the eyes, and I was
in your
scared shitless.
in your mind, right? Like in your
Of
mind.
course, yeah,
Okay. Okay.
behind
Cool.
my closed eyes, yeah.
Yeah.
And did like something like I did already some spiritual stuff, but this was for me never something happened like that. So I really was scared. And then at one point, okay, I let it go. And then like a week later, we did the same meditation, and then the same thing happened. And then I thought, okay, this must mean something. So I really felt obliged to go to Priska and to tell her, okay, this and this and this happened. I didn't call her. We did it via Messenger. So I wrote her, okay, this and this and this happened. I'm not sure
Yeah.
how to tell you, but this was my experience. And then it was a long time silence. And then she returned with the message that she was like literally crying on the floor of the kitchen, because with her the same thing happened twice in the same meditation. I was with her in
Mm,
Switzerland, and she could
mm,
feel me, and she felt such an incredible love that she had never felt before for me, while never have met me. And then at one point we were like hanging out more. I also told my wife. I always, because that's also authenticity, honesty, simpleness. I immediately told
yeah.
my wife, because
Good.
I cannot lie about
Good.
nothing actually.
Right.
um, and like I had written about, I had read, sorry, about twin flames and soulmates. My ex-wife also. So actually, at one point, what happened was that I said, well, maybe I have to go to Switzerland to meet her and just to see what it is. Maybe it's just a meditation trick or whatever. And then my ex-wife actually said, yes, I think you have to do that. Okay. So I went to Switzerland and Priska came to the airport and she picked me up. And then the moment we touched each other, it was, yeah, it always sounds so crazy and I cannot even explain it, but it was like in these movies that you really get literally sucked away in another
Sure. Oh, I
realm
understand.
almost.
I understand.
And then it really was clear that we had to be together. We really had to be together. I In that very moment, I literally could not deny that. And what also happened, like a small thing, is that when I was with her, she showed me her photo album at one point, and from that I was like 6 year old till being an adult, I always dreamt about this little girl that whenever I was in trouble or I felt sad or bad, she came in my dreams and she didn't say anything, but she was there as a witness of the things that I was processing. And she showed me her childhood album and I saw a picture of her as a little girl and it was like the girl from my dreams. So this everything together, and there are more like crazy things that really
Yeah.
made me realize there's no way back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And um, and it was
Yeah.
the most beautiful and the most shitty, hardest, painful time of my life. But I really felt that this was the path that I had to walk. Yeah.
It's so good. And it all started with you saying this scary thing like, "Hey, I hallucinated you on my couch while we were doing this meditation," right?
True. Yeah.
Or
No,
you
that's
had a
true.
deep connection, and
Yeah.
she felt present. You felt deeply connected over that. I mean, we could label it any number of ways, but you experienced a deep connection so that it was almost like a hologram of her in the room when you were on this
Yeah.
global meditation. And it all
Yeah.
started with you telling her that scary thing. And probably even scarier, maybe, I don't know, telling your wife at the time the same thing.
That was the scariest thing.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'll bet. And I've often, in my experience, I've often said, I'll say a thing, and I think, people get in their heads about telling the truth or not. And in my experience, a lot of times I'll say a thing and people are like, "Oh, thank God you said it." Like I was thinking the same thing, or really, or maybe it's an unconventional thing. Like I hate Valentine's Day. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't, and I, posted a whole thing about the absurdity of it. I'm doing another live stream later today with Sarah Maxwell about just,
Yeah.
like loving who you love every day. Like why should why do you need an annual holiday? Like I just hate it, right? And I just got reconnected with my first grade crush
Mm-hmm. Is
from
this the girl
when I
from the
was
picture?
7 years old. No, 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 no.
Okay.
So this woman, it's so fun. So I had to find her. She wasn't easy. She'd changed her middle name. We talked again last night. She's like, "Hey, what's your stance on Valentine's Day? Because I just got these like flowers and chocolates on my front door, and I'm in Hawaii." And I was like, "Well, first of all, I would ask you what you wanted first. I wouldn't just assume that you wanted chocolates and
And
flowers
Rose.
and
Yeah.
like I'm not going to be a cliche either." Um, and she's like, "Oh, good. I hate it too." Right? Like we were. It's like she's in Hawaii. She's like, "Good." She's like, "I didn't think you would, but But I told her, I said, by the way, I still have a crush on you from first grade. She's like, I do too. And she
Wow.
still remembers the necklace. So she was my one and only Valentine, I think, when I was 7 years old. She still has she still has the like cheap necklace that my mom helped me buy for her. I think I picked it out, but it was like, it was like a $5 like, and
Yeah.
man, I was like, oh my gosh. And I still but just the connection that's developed by me going, by the way, I still have a crush on you from 7 years old.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen each other in 43 years. And she said,
Yeah.
I do too. And she also said, and I'm not ready for a relationship, but I really like you. And we've had a couple of dates, and I've met her kids, and so we've.
Mhm.
But I think and to me, it's funny. I was in a course last night on relationships, and I was talking with the course leader who is a peer of mine, and we're 3 weeks in, and I went into a practice group, and this woman asked me some questions. She goes, "Well, now I understand why you have the balls that you have because your life path." I was like, "Balls?" It's like, well, you say things that are like, "Oh my god, I can't believe he asked that or said that." I'm like, didn't even occur to me. And so it
Mm.
goes back to like the simplicity of just say the thing. Like people get in their heads and
Yeah,
they get in this complex story about whether they should say it or not, and they get, to be simple about it, they get self-conscious.
that's
Okay.
true.
And just drop all that and just like if you could cut the process to I don't filter myself. I have a thought, I express it. I have a request, I make it. I have appreciation for the woman in front of me, I
Yeah,
express it. Like it literally might be the curvature of her forearm, or it might be the way she is in her body, or it could be, the how she has her hair that day, or the suppleness of her neck, or whatever is authentic in front of me in the moment. And instead of going, should I say that or not? Oh my gosh, I just say it, and it
yeah,
builds intimacy and connection. So, and then often it's like people just don't say the things, and like
it's
it's so
true.
funny that people go for years like, and they say, well, you didn't listen to me. It's like, well, okay, well, but did you say the thing? Like you've been suffering for 10 years. Did you say the thing?
Yeah.
So I would rather die telling the truth than suffer,
Yes,
not.
totally. And the beautiful thing of what you tell, also the example that you just gave about this relationship program that you were in, you when you don't have someone like you, no, I'm going to rephrase it. A person like you, when he speaks up or she, immediately the whole energy in the room goes down, like in
Yeah,
a good way, like because people
yeah,
think, oh, yeah, I can relax and I don't have to take everything so seriously. And this man is just speaking his mind, and I can do the same. I feel now that there is space that I can
that's right.
just go up as. So it's also leading by example, and you really, when you do that, you can help so many people get off this energy of,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
I have to swallow everything, or I cannot just be there.
Especially around sex and relationships. I mean, the number of things so on Facebook, people send me stuff all the time. They're like, I'm afraid to post this, but I think you might, right? So, right. And I'm like, I totally will. Like,
Yeah.
and I do, but it's like they feel safe to tell me the truth because they like, first of all, I say things and it's never provocative in a mean way, or I mean, maybe some people don't, they might get offended, but usually it's just me. I'm expressing myself, and they go, "Oh, I can express myself with him. I can share
Mm,
things with him.
yes.
I don't feel are appropriate to share." And I think the more we were like, "Hey, man, this has kept us in the dark ages for centuries around
True.
sex and love and hygiene and all sorts of things." It's like, "Oh, you can say that? Yeah, we're
Yeah.
all thinking it. Come on, just just say it, and then we can actually like if we just stop going, oh no, you can't say that. No, you can,
Yeah.
and
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I love that. And I really think that, like they say about Dutch people, that in Holland there is not so much what's the word again, taboo about anything,
sure,
and we can talk about anything.
yeah,
Um,
good,
and I think it's. I remember that Priska because I thought in Europe every country is a little bit the same. And I remember that Priska for the first time was with my mom and my sister. We were all together, and then the
mm,
topic was if her son, the son of my sister, who was then 16 or 17, if he already masturbated. And we just talked freely about it with my mom in the present, and this is just things that we normally talk about. And Prisco was almost wanting to crawl under the kitchen table, not because she was ashamed or that it touched some prudish parts in her, but that she was so not used to it. And I think it's so lovely to see when people like yourself just show up and just share whatever they want to share, and also by doing that create this beautiful liberated free community of people
Yeah.
who actually what we are talking about, who just dare to be authentic and just
Yeah.
be out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just, they just be themselves. They just say the thing that everyone's thinking anyway. I mean, there are sometimes some impact, and I have been, in the past. I mean, I just turned 50, so I have some history, and there have
Hmm.
been times in the past where I've been not invited to certain contexts because people are like, "Oh, we never know what you might say," and we're scared of that, and some people can handle it, and some people can't. I'm like, yeah, I get it. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And I appreciate their discretion, and their discernment. I get it. Like I am not for everybody. I do like to make sure I tailor, because for me
Hmm.
it's really about being of service. So I do want to, but I'm here to help. Like, I'm on this planet to help consciousness evolve. So I'm
Yeah.
going to expand people's worlds. I try to stretch them, not break them. Like I
Yeah.
understand that if I go too far, they're going to contract and regress, and so I want to make sure I don't do that. I want to make sure, but I definitely want to leave them a little stretched, sometimes a little sore. If you, but expanded. I want, I want
Mm.
it to be
Yeah. Yeah.
expanded. So I don't know. I have it that that's what we're here to do. If we're not doing that, if we're not expanding people's worlds, you and I, then what are we doing in the space of sex and relationships? We should be helping them expand possibilities, expand their view, expand themselves, their sense of themselves, what they can hold and contain. I have it that that's really our role.
Yeah.
So, it does take skillful means. Um, but yeah, sometimes it's just good. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that. But then they tell me things that, that they feel free to
Yeah.
share.
Yeah. That's true. And I think that's I always like when I meet people like you, or like people that also in your other group that hang out there, I immediately feel at home because I feel that I
the,
found my
the,
tribe.
the, the unfiltered group.
This one, yeah, yeah. Yeah, but I think
Uh,
like there is already so much beating around the bush and like filtering ourselves and not showing up
yeah,
authentically. And come on, people, we are like, and I understand, like 80% of the time, I understand where it comes from, and I understand that it has to do with education and how your mama and papa did, and the people that you hung out with, if you're religious, yes or no. So I understand all the things that stick to it, and that can make it very incredibly difficult. I totally understand all these things. And
yeah,
what is important is that within the ways of society, of all the dogmas around you, you have to find your way, because if you don't, you will die miserably when you lie in your deathbed at one point. And I think it's about just living your life so that the moment that you die, that you can say, what the fuck, I said everything I did everything I did, and I am so incredibly proud of myself. And that needs people who to get out of their own way and to reach this unlimited self. Oh,
yeah,
I see the comments popping up all of a sudden.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. I've been. I can display. I can select. It's one of the things I love about this software is I can So I click which ones show up on the
Ah,
bottom.
okay. Yeah.
I leave them there for a minute. Here's Priska. There you go. Here's another one from her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's I think the one that's probably,
Yeah.
yeah, it's probably the one that warms my heart anyway when I read that one. Hmm.
Yeah. It's still also when I talk about it, and of course I have talked about it more than once, so it's more like a thing that I'm saying now in between other things. But when I really put my energy and I really feel into it, it's like so crazy, so incredibly
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's wrap this up a bit. So I'd love, like, and you and I didn't talk about this format a whole lot, but one, and I just this just like one piece of advice that you have for, and then we'll talk about what you do professionally. We'll both do this. I'll give a piece of advice, like, but
Yep.
what's one piece of advice you might have? You just told this gorgeous story, and you've lived an unconventional life, which I love.
Mm.
So like, what's one piece of advice you give people in sex and relationships and like that?
Yeah. Well, for me, what's the most important thing is that you have to stay curious. Um,
Hmm.
I see so many people who, one, are not curious about themselves anymore, and two, when they are in a relationship or when they are in the dating pool or whatever,
Yeah.
not curious anything anymore. Like I have so many people
Hmm.
or work with people where they tell stories, and then what you said, that we then ask, okay, but did you tell them or did you ask that? No,
Right.
no, we didn't actually. And then like people think, okay, my partner, whenever he's angry, he acts like this. Whenever he's sad, he goes to his room. Whenever he comes home from work, he's going to say this and this and this. Yes, if you keep asking the same question over and over, then they will probably keep telling this. But it's also your task to sometimes shift the questions that you ask. Maybe just create a whole new list of questions that you might ask, where when your husband comes home from work and you ask a question that he thinks, what the F? Oh, damn, I have to think about that. Ooh, I feel that my juices get like this.
Yeah.
Because this, but also for yourself, like lots of people just live their life without even thinking about, okay, why am I doing this actually? Is this still what I want to do? And it's
Yeah.
really about like curiosity is really the golden word for me in
Hmm.
sex, in relationship, but also for yourself. Just in life, be curious. That's my advice.
Hmm. Nice.
Mm.
Yeah. For me, there's it's funny. The last lover I had, I don't date women under 35 or 40. It's like I'm just not interested.
Mhm.
Yeah. And as a 50-year-old guy, it's like there's just certain things I don't want to have to teach them. But I can still delight in. So in terms of curiosity, this woman, she was at my house for the weekend.
Mm.
And it was just, I was cooking a lot of food. There was a lot of sex, and I don't know how it came up, but she had never looked at her own pussy, and
Yeah.
she was 40, and I was like, "You haven't? Okay, great." Instead of like, "Well, you haven't? What do you like?" And so I got a mirror. Like I was like, "Great," and she was in one of my dress shirts,
Hmm.
and panties. So I took her panties off, and I got a mirror. And I, brought her the mirror in and I was like, take a good look. It's a pretty pussy. And so like, not only did I help her, like, your pussy's beautiful, it's gorgeous, all pussies are.
Mm.
And you should look at it. Like, you should know which spots you have. Like, I was actually surprised, but it was also, you want to make sure. Some people, when they're telling you the truth, and this is part of hearing it, it can be so subtle and so, like, I don't think. I mean, I certainly am disconnected from how scary it can be to tell the truth. For a lot of people,
Mm.
it's scary as fuck. And
Mm.
so if you even a scowl when somebody says they want to try a thing or they haven't done a thing or they especially sexually, they're
Yeah.
really vulnerable and they may never bring it up again with anybody else. And so you want to make sure that you have poise and demonstrate acceptance because you might not think you're shaming them, but just know that you want to make sure they only feel approval for their desires and now you may not want to participate. There are things people tell me, I'm like, I totally don't want to participate in that. I would love to help you find somebody who will help you experience it, but I'm not interested in that. But
Yeah.
I don't have any, I'm not going to reinforce any shame for them because I know it was probably scary for them to share. And so the more if we just say, wow, that was probably it probably took a lot of courage for you to say that, or maybe that was really scary for you to say that. And they'll go, yeah, great. And so just
Mhm.
thank them for sharing the thing that was probably scary to share. And if you're triggered, that means you've got more work to do around that, not
Yes,
them.
definitely. Yeah.
Cool.
Beautiful.
So you and so let's get to the marketing part. So you and Priska work together, right? You do stuff
Yeah.
for a couple, and you're working with women. Is that right? Like you guys are doing a women's program, right?
Yeah. We started with only with single women, and we did like coachings. We do coaching packages, and we had a program. And at one point, because we have done it a couple of times already, and at one point there were also women interested who actually were in relationship, and then we thought, well, why not? Like the topics are all about how you can become
Hmm.
like as authentic as possible. How can you embody like this warrior as this goddess? How can you really show up, unleash your sheesh? So then we started also working with women in relationship, and this actually was incredibly beautiful because like all the women in the group, all of a sudden also started learning from each other, and like the whole dynamics was very beautiful. So
Hmm.
what we actually do, we actually work with everyone. We work with guys, we work with couples, we work with single women, with single guys. We also uh, since this year we are coaching with couples, like real coaching. Before we already worked with them, but now we really go very much in depth in relationships. So that's actually it, coaching, and we have now this program for ladies, and we also are looking for ways how we can open things up for more guys. But this is what we do right now. Yep.
And do you have a website or how can people reach you? What's your
Yeah, we have well, they can anyhow because the most things we just post here on Facebook. Like you
yeah?
can go to one
What's
of our
yeah.
personal profiles, and our website is called thelovealchemists.com.
Excellent. Thank you
So
so
there you
much.
can find everything that we do, and yeah.
Sweet. And as people may or may not know, you can reach me at evolutionarycompanies.com. I've had over 500 clients through one-on-one programs, 6-month one-on-one programs over the last 16 years. I'm leading my final NLP training, evolutionary NLP training. I'll be bringing in integral theory. It's a 7-month certification training that starts
Mhm.
in May. That's the last time I'll be doing that. And then evolutionarygentleman.com. You can spell it either way, singular or plural. .com. It'll both lead to the same place.
Cool.
And that's some of the work I'm developing right now for men around how to be like there's purpose and polarity. There's being a full spectrum lover.
Mm.
And there's also, how to just be an evolutionary gentleman, which includes both of the previous two I just mentioned.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
evolutionary gentleman is really full spectrum lover. And also, you have to have purpose, understand polarity, but be flexible around it as well. I think there's a lot of problems there. So evolutionarycompanies.com or evolutionarygentleman.com. Thank you, Bas. You've been fantastic.
Thank you.
We should do it again, or maybe
Yeah. Yeah.
or the three of us. I'd love to have you and
Yeah.
Prisca on
That'd
there
be
as
cool.
well. It'd be fun.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right, man.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for doing the work that you do in the world and serving people.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, brother.
Bye bye.